This is my full RC mod of the LEGO Technic Fast and Furious Dom's Dodge Charger 42111 black car. Now let me tell you that it took me a while to modify this thing and to really perfect it, and to hide all the wires and motors and such, make them invisible. I came up with about 20 different variants of my RC mod, and this is what I finally settled on. Now, most LEGO Technic modders would just literally tear off the engine, put a motor inside of there, the place where the engine is supposed to be, and call it a day, simply because, well, the motor can still drive the wheels, right? Well, not to me. I really felt like, of this Fast and Furious car, the engine is just such an iconic part, especially because it is so unique. You've got these three things on the front here, you've got the chain for the engine, and this is such a nice Hemi engine that it had to be included here. And not only that, I had to make it function, meaning I couldn't just disconnect the differential from the engine and place a motor right next to the differential. I had to come up with a solution here. And so I did. I simply extended the axle from the engine and put a large motor there. Now, I'll get to everything like that in just a second, but first, I really want to show you how this thing can drive and do everything like that. Each function over here is fully independent. It's got 3 motors, 1 large motor, a servo motor, and an XL motor for the standing up function. It drives perfectly and absolutely flawlessly. I'm really proud of just how well this mod came out to be, because most of the time, it kind of drives slow, it doesn't really want to go, but I didn't even use any instructions from the internet. I came up with this all by myself. And it does use power functions, of course. Power functions are my favorite type of LEGO connectivity. I'm not a huge fan of new powered up system, but the power function system is still relatively available to everyone and still pretty cheap if you want to get it. So let's talk about the actual mods and the designs themselves of the car. First of all, I want to talk about what I did to the back of the car. As you can see, I completely reshaped the sort of back of the car, and I also added 2 IR receivers over here, and I also added some black bricks on top of them to kind of blend them in with the color of the car more. And there is a nice curvature here, and then I lifted up this trunk and I made it go down at a much steeper angle to kind of really compensate for everything here, and I am quite proud of just how well this turned out. And over at the back, there is an exposed battery box. I didn't want to cover it up too much, simply because, I want to play with this car a lot, and if I ever want to take out the batteries, I gotta be able to do that with quick and ease. Now, if you turn it on over here to the battery box, everything will light up. Like, you've got these 4 lights in the front, the 4 headlights, and they're just so awesome in my opinion. Now, the way I did that is you have to modify the front lights, the attachment of them, just a little bit. And basically, here's the assembly of the original lights, and I just took that apart, and then I took the little clear curvature piece. Then I added the 1x1 brick, the 1x1 round clear brick to it, like so. And then I just stuck it on over here to the little Technic hole, and also in the hole of the other side, I did insert all of the LEGO Technic power functions lights. Now there's 2 power functions lights here, and because of this car is relatively long, I actually used a switch to extend the power functions cable. So basically, the battery box connects the 2 IR receivers and the switch. The switch goes over here, and on this switch there are actually 2 connectors here. I connected both of the power functions lights, and that's just how basically everything extends. Now let me tell you just the preliminary basics of how I modified everything and how you can potentially do it yourself too. Over here in the front, as I did talk about earlier, there is a motor, an L motor here, which is using one of these flexible axle pieces from LEGO Technic. I just inserted that to the motor and connected it to the elongated axle from the engine. I did have to disassemble the engine just a little bit, but it's not too complicated. It shouldn't really mess you up much. It's really quite simple actually. And of course I did connect the actual L motor with just some L brackets over here. It is attached very nicely and very securely to the car, and I'm quite proud of how everything turned out. Over at the back here there is a servo motor which is connected to the mechanism of the actual steering. The servo motor, the thing with that is it always does return to center, so using a servo motor for cars especially is really nice, and I do appreciate just how well everything turned out here. And the servo motor, of course, is connected pretty securely with everything, and it's not really visible from anything. It's a really nice sort of implementation of how I put in the servo motor here. Now here's the most interesting assembly in my opinion, which is the XL motor. It's on the right of the car, attached like so. And as you can see, I basically used an L bracket with one of these axle holes for it so the motor could actually spin it, and then I attached a stick to that thing, which of course is attached to the little wheels that can make the wheelie happen. And the reason I'm really proud of this mechanism is, even though it's super simple, once you do extend it and once you do make it into a wheelie position, even if you push down really hard on the car, it'll still keep its up position, meaning the mechanism just does a sort of little self-locking thing. So as soon as it fully extends, it kind of locks into place, and then once the motor goes back down, it just unlocks and boom, everything is perfect. And this mechanism is very nice in my opinion. Nothing over here is super complicated, but it might take you a little bit of time to actually figure out how to put everything in and how to connect everything. Of course, I did have to tinker around with the car and with the assembly of the chassis a lot to kind of make the motors all fit nicely and such. And if you want full and complete instructions, like step-by-step instructions with all the pieces and everything like that, then just comment down below if you want those, and maybe next week I will release a video with full detailed step-by-step instructions for this car. Right now I just made a preliminary outline of how I attached everything and stuff like that. If you want to see the factory version of this car, just completely unmodified of it, I actually did a full review of it up on my channel, so here's a video to that. This is your Unbreak Me here, and I'll see you in the next one.